And Marshall Fax was a recipient of our grant over the last year or so. And we're happy to have Jen back to talk about her project and how it turned out. I'll turn it over to you, Jen.
Thanks, Mike. And I just want to say I'm grateful for the money that South Shore Community Partners in Prevention gave us to get this project done. And another thing I think about, been thinking about a lot, is grateful for people who we collaborate with, who come from a place of possibility. I think you all work in collaborative ways, and you know what I'm talking about, the people who see how to get things done instead of raising the obstacles and finding the excuses. And we definitely benefit from that in our community coalition. Oh, I have a little presentation. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, I
may need permission. So we received a small grant, I believe it was $599.50, and our intention was to buy 50 books from this Hey Kiddo, which is it is a graphic memoir. Ooh, I don't know how to stop that echo, sorry. So for me, this was the first book I've ever read in this format. It's like a graphic novel format, has terrific artwork and a great story. And so graphic novels are a big hit with young people right now. So we thought this would be a great way to engage youth in, and this story is a true story. That's why it's a graphic memoir instead of a graphic novel of this author, Jarrett Krasoska. He actually lives in Western Massachusetts, and it's the story of growing up in Worcester with his grandparents, because his mother was a heroin addict. And I can share my screen now. We reached out the middle school at Furnace Brook Middle School. Teresa DeLuca. Sorry about the echo. I don't know how to fix it. And we got such a great response from Teresa. This is what I talk about when I'm saying I'm grateful for people who are collaborative and come from a place of possibility. I gave her the book and said, I think there's a great potential to do a book read of some sort with this, but I would need some help, and I need someone creative like you to help me with the vision. And she reached out she gave the book to 8 staff members at Furnace Brook Middle School who collaborated on an after-school book club. They coordinated everything, permission slips, and they made it. This was back when school was when school was meeting in person, and things like this were easier. And you know, one of the things I learned from the point of view of a community coalition is that we're always trying to work with the schools, and we often hear of a program, we favor evidence-based programs. We heard of something that worked at another school. We'll try to find funding, and we'll go to the school and say, we'd like to bring this in a packaged product to you. And they're sometimes resistant. And that they really respond. We went to them and said, how could we do this? What do you think? And we asked them to be creative. They responded in such a positive way. And I would never have gone to them and said, could you put 8 staff together to run this after school program? But that's how many people were interested in this topic. So they really felt like they all had some kind of connection to this story, and they wanted to share it with the kids. So this is, Teresa DeLuca when I brought her the book. That's how happy she was. She's a lovely person. So there were some books left over from that project, which we donated to the Boys and Girls Club. And the intention at the Boys and Girls Club was to run, again, a middle school age. That's the age appropriate for this title. Was to run a middle school book club at the Boys and Girls Club. And unfortunately, we ran into basically the pandemic at that point. So the Boys and Girls Club is back open, but they're doing, their programming has changed dramatically, and they don't really have as many middle schoolers. So the books are still there at the Boys and Girls Club. We intend to do this in the future, but there's just not a lot of middle schoolers at the Boys and Girls Club right now. So we also donated books to the Ventress Library, the public library in Marshfield. And this gave me a great way to meet the teen librarian at Ventress Library and work with her. She's fantastic. So we also in the process connected the teen librarian at Ventress Library to the middle school librarian. Of course, they hit it off great, and now they're working together on different projects. So by donating the 25 copies to the Ventress Library, that means they're in the Old Colony Network. So there is so at any town in the Old Colony Network now could do a book club on with 25 copies of this book. And 25 copies is also the Ventress Library is looking to collaborate with classroom teachers, and they think 25 is enough copies for a classroom too. So the books are there. We attempted 2 different virtual book clubs. The participation was not great, unfortunately. I think people are a little zoomed out, adults and kids, but we are hopeful that we will be able to do this program again in the future. Even though the community reads, we were really hoping to do like kind of a town-wide read. That didn't go the way we wanted, but I do think we were able to successfully do the middle school group, and we have the books available to do future groups, and we've established some great connections to within the town to do future projects. And related, but not exactly, this is not a Marshfield Facts event. This is a Plymouth County Drug Abuse Task Force, Drug Endangered Children's Initiative, Brockton Area Prevention Collaborative, Plymouth Area Prevention Collaborative, and Plymouth Youth Development Collaborative project. We are bringing the author in January to do a virtual event again. And we don't quite have the link ready for this event yet, but I would encourage you to save the date. That's going to be a fun event. So I will stop my share.
Awesome.
Open it up for questions.
Great.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you, Jen. You know, I think as a steering committee, we definitely realized that a lot of the grant proposals we got back in late 19, early 20 were great ideas, great projects, and of course the best laid plans of all these agencies and organizations unfortunately have been waylaid by the pandemic to some extent. So we're very excited. I apologize. I switched back over to my iPad. That's why I look like I'm staring down from above here. But we're very pleased that you were able to perform some part of what you wanted to do. And the beauty is the books are there. The books are there as a resource for whoever wants to use them. And they're there in case you want to do programming when we're back to our new normal, quote unquote. So one question about Ventress, do they have any, I Are they open at all for like borrowing, or is it just curbside?
Yeah, so they're doing you can make an appointment and go in and browse, and they actually have a table set up, a display of the books set up. They are encouraging people to take the books out, but I think that's been very limited, that not a lot of people are taking advantage of that. And then they are also doing curbside.
Yeah.
But they're really seeing a significant drop in
Yeah.
participation at the library.
Yeah, and I think programs are tough because, as you say, people have a million other things. Although we're all kind of tied to our couch and our kitchen table, we're all
Right.
really busy with working from home or teaching our kids from home or whatever it is. And when we think about jumping on for another hour and a half at 7 o'clock, it's like the
Exactly.
with bread, you know. So unfortunately, I think that's what a lot of people are facing. Does anyone else have any questions for Jen about the program?
This is Trudy. I just wanted to make a quick comment. Jen, I read the book. It's actually fabulous.
Yeah.
And I would encourage people to read it because it's written very differently for sure, but really gives a good overview of the disease from the family's perspective.
Yeah, I was shocked when I read it. It's a quick read. I think I read it in 2 sessions, about an hour and a half each. So it's maybe 3 hours total to read the book because of the combination of the words and illustrations, you feel like you've read a novel. I mean, you really get the whole story, and it's an interesting medium that I had never really explored before. And the story is very uplifting and positive. He has a great outcome. He obviously becomes an award-winning author. So, you know, and it's his true story of how he kind of found his artistic talent and developed that. And I feel like that helped him build resilience. And overall, we're thrilled with the book. We just wish we could get it out to more people.
I think it's really great that the author is doing a virtual presentation. You know, maybe you'll get some really good, you know, go ahead with that. You know, maybe you'll get some different people will be watching it from different areas too. You know, I hope you can promote that, or not you personally, but all of us can try to promote that.
Yeah, we'll definitely, once we
flyer.
get that finalized, we'll definitely share it.
I mean, even in our own communities, I didn't see my town library list as part of it, but I just think it would be great, you know, just to really spread the word. So perhaps with the author. In that
Yeah, the virtual event will be open to
anybody. Yeah.
Anyone.
Yeah. I thought it was great. You guys did a great job. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely send us the link, Jen, when that's established. We definitely want to make sure all of our members know about it. And I'm excited to be part of that too, just to hop on. So I won't be dreading that Zoom. That'll be one. Not
So that one will be fun.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Any other questions for Jen or comments? Well, thank you, Jen. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over and just remind folks if they do have things. I apologize when I switched from my laptop to my iPad because my laptop was losing power and losing internet. And that's why we heard the echo there for a few minutes. I also lost the chat. So if there's any shout outs or thank yous in the chat that people want to share, feel free to do that now, or you can do it, raise your hand and we can do that, have people speak out. But just to remind folks of that. But at this point, again, this is the season of thanks, and it's the season of giving. And we had Thanksgiving last month, and of course the holidays this month. And it is an especially important time to think about how we can help other people who are less fortunate, unfortunately, and especially with the pandemic. And I think all of our agencies, all of our work, we're seeing people even more often than usual are struggling to make ends meet, to feed their families, to keep a roof over their heads. So it is a really important time to be thinking about them and acknowledging some of the great programs that are helping folks like that. So we're really excited to be hearing from a couple programs today. And I first want to introduce Jeff Stone from Community Food Packaging and Matthew Martin from Outreach New England. They have a great program. We were very happy and thankful that for the second year in a row, we were able, as a steering committee and as a CHNA, to provide some funding to support the program. But I'm going to turn it over to Jeff and Matthew to talk about the great work that they're doing. So turn it over to you, gentlemen.
Great, thanks. Appreciate that. Community Food Packaging was really founded as an outreach arm of Joy in Christ Lutheran Church in Abington several years ago. Since then, we've partnered with the outreach program. Community Food Packaging's primary function is to raise funds and to call volunteers to action to package meals for the food insecure in our communities. For the last several years, the program has been specifically focused on filling up the food pantries in Plymouth County. Last year, we were fortunate enough to be able to raise enough money to get 700 volunteers to show up on one day at Abington High School and package 250,000 meals for 17 Plymouth County food pantries. This year, through the generosity of my church, which just sold and literally went out of business, we were able to go out into the community with an audacious goal of trying to raise enough money to feed 1 million people. So we created a matching fund where the church would would match up to the first $75,000 from the community. And so my group went out along with Matthew Martin and solicited funding from the community. We actually raised it $75,000 and more. The church matched $225,000. So with that total $300,000, we've been able to package we're about 60,000 meals short of packaging 1 million meals in the last couple of months. So the work that Matthew does, I'm going to actually let him talk about outreach because they've been in existence here in New England for over 10 years. The work that the outreach program does to feed the hungry in New England with a big focus on the greater Boston and South Shore area is just phenomenal. So Matthew, why don't you take it over and talk a little bit about outreach's mission and maybe big picture, but also specifically what you've been able to do during the pandemic.
So I'm going to go wide and then pan in tight to the South Shore. My boss and his wife retired 17 years ago, and they meant to sail the world. They had retired early and they had money set aside for a sailboat. They made the mistake of going with some friends who were doctors and nurses to East Africa on a missions trip to start their retirement. Floyd could build stuff, and Kathy just wanted to see Africa because they lived in Iowa. And they went, and she saw starvation. So they repurposed. They took the money, got some maize, which is like corn, barter traded it with some women who had made crafts, sold the crafts, kind of got this thing rolling. And their mission became clean water, nutritious food, medical care, and education for Tanzania, Kenya area of East Africa. It expanded to about a dozen other countries. And then 7 years in, they realized that hunger locally was so bad that an American child was twice as likely to be hungry as any given person on the planet. So they started a domestic component, and I was a pastor. My wife had a dream 11 years ago that we were supposed to move to New England, so we did. She was a teacher, and we had 2 little kids, 3 and a 5-year-old, and we moved to Quincy and got our ministry rolling. And we arrived the very next day the Haiti earthquake happened, so a big part of our ministry was feeding hungry orphans in Haiti. And then a year and a half into our ministry there, we realized the same thing that Floyd and Kathy realized, and I contacted them and said, hey, I feel like I need to work for you. Do you do anything domestically? I know the one meal we have is an international meal. It's a simple rice-based meal, it goes all over. But like, what about our neighbors right around here? And they said, you know, the interesting thing is we're just switching over also to include primarily a domestic component. We're going to launch a couple new meals, and we want to launch a regional program because we can only do so much from Iowa. Where do you live? We'd like to start this somewhere we've never ever done meal packaging before, so we can get it off the ground and see if it would work anywhere. And I said, well, I used to live in Minnesota, but we live in south of Boston now. And they said, fantastic, we'd love to try it out. Do you want to do this? And I was like, okay, sure. So we started packaging. When you are a pastor and you leave a church, you lose your home and medical and dental benefits for your children. So we moved down to Marshfield to help Mark Huber start Sanctuary, which is intentionally interdenominational church. So he's a Lutheran pastor like I used to be, but we just kind of got the thing rolling. And a big part of their ministry became the meal packaging, because his part of the deal was that he'd help me get it off the ground. So we did that. The first 5 years of the 10 that we've been doing this, I'd go anywhere because we just wanted to get it off the ground. So I did a bunch in New England, certainly a bunch on the South Shore at Sanctuary, but we went everywhere. So the Northeast became End Hunger Any. The Any was supposed to be New England only, but it became the Northeast. The last 5 years has been almost exclusively New England, because we basically were able to build it up enough. So much so that we were able to get a warehouse in Pembroke, which is crucial to this whole idea of doing this during a pandemic, because you have to do it somewhere. Every event we did prior to this for 8.5 years was mobile. So I'd load up a cargo van, I'd drive to Caribou, Maine, or I'd drive into Marshfield, wherever I needed to go, set up everything, do the packing, the meals would stay, I'd drive back to the Pembroke warehouse. So for years, I was the only one that ever went in the warehouse. I think Jeff was there with me once to do the loading up for the Abington event at the Abington High School last year, but otherwise it was just me. So essentially for 9 straight years, we had more meals packed every single year and more focused on New England. And then you'll see from statistics that I'll share in a second, just how focused it is on the South Shore. But we were doing that and doing more events every year, feeding more people. And there was actually less hungry people to feed. So right before the pandemic hit, we were actually at a 20-year low for hunger. And then it went over top of where it's ever been. So we're at the peak now, unfortunately. So when we started 10 years ago, we were at what used to be the peak of 2 million hungry New Englanders. Then it went down to 1.4 over all those years. It fell each year, and then it vaulted up to 2.1 right now. But if you look at the New England, a lot of my events are on the North and South Shore, Boston, Providence Metro, Cape and Islands, kind of this an hour away from the warehouse area. If last year we did 120 events, you look at just where we did them, half of those events were in that little circle and half were in the greater New England outside of that circle. This year has been different because we need money to pack the meals, which thank you for the grant. That was amazing. And all the money that we were able to raise because you were giving and Jeff's church was giving. But we need money, we need volunteers, and normally those come together. Jeff raised a bunch of money and got a bunch of volunteers to do this at Abington High School last year. So then we pack them, give them away to local food pantries, backpack program, homeless shelter, food bank, whatever. And then we just promote about it, and word of mouth growth caused us over 8.5 years to go from just Sanctuary doing it to 2,600 groups. Well, when the pandemic hit, we were like, oh, wonderful. How do we even do this? We were told we couldn't do a mobile event for a few months, which actually became several months. We've only done 11 during the entire pandemic of 9 months. But we did 120 events last year. So we're doing that many every month. So like we were trying to figure out how to do this. Well, we now have 400 pantries through word of mouth over the 8.5 years we did mobile events. Everybody who got involved, every donor, every volunteer, every pantry heard about it from somebody else. It was all word of mouth, a Facebook post or whatever. And we had gotten one of those, a donor, a volunteer, or a pantry from every county in New England. But 67 counties in New England, there was about 6 or 8 that were doing half the meals, and then the other 60-ish were doing the other half. During the pandemic, it's all backwards. I tell everybody it's like moonwalking. It's way slower, but a lot cooler. That's what we have to do. So now we have to pack them out at the warehouse. Thank God we have the warehouse. And then we just get them out. So pantries come and pick them up. So everything's backwards, but we still get the work done. We were able to do just a couple families did this on the first day of spring. One, she works in Duxbury at the Catholic Church, where she lives in Marshfield. My family joined her. We did the packing together, and we've every single month, the entire pandemic added about 100 families to our involvement. So we now have like 850 families doing this together. signing up to volunteer. As long as we have funds, we pack meals. So we've been packing Jeff's meals for months, and then we give them out. We've got 40 or 50 pantries now that want meals right around here. Our list for New England is more like 400 pantries, and that's why we needed to get something up and rolling. So where the pandemic takes out a book club, we just keep rolling because we have the warehouse space. The only limiting factor is the number of people we can have in the building. So we are limited by the governor to 24 people plus me in the warehouse at any given time. We did one of these events in DC where we had 5,000 volunteers on 100 assembly lines, a dozen per assembly line for all day, fed over 1 million people in a day. If we want to pack 1 million meals, which we're doing for this Abington group, we have to take months to do it because we just have to do small groups at a time. Every shift we do is 3 hours, and we've had a 4-year-old in there a couple times for 3 hours doing it. So it's families, it's anybody who can do it, but we just do it in a modified fashion. So we've kind of spread the assembly line out, and just whoever comes in a car together works on a part of an assembly line together to pack meals. We just had a full house in there, 24 people showed up. We fed almost 20,000 people in 3 hours because we had the funding from you and all the community people and whatnot. So now instead of a 50-50 split, 80% of the meals have been funded from right around here. If you look at all the counties at the end of any year, I look at how many counties fed 100,000 people, and we're going to celebrate these 15 counties. This year, it's only 6. And if you take the other 5, not Plymouth County, but the other 5 and add them up, Plymouth County has funded and packed more meals than the other 5 top counties. There's only 6 that have done over 100,000. Plymouth County's done like 1.7 million. So it's been a huge response locally. Therefore, a lot of our meals have gone out locally, just right to the South Shore and right around here, because that's where the funding came from. So that's what we do, and we've been doing it. Last year we did 120 times mobily. This year we had our biggest winter ever. So we had 22 mobile events before the pandemic. We've only had 11 since, but the last time I was at the warehouse, it was our 190th day at the warehouse. So we've done 223 events this year instead of 120, but we have been able to keep up with the increase in hunger. So the hunger has gone up. If you do the quick math, 1.4 million to 2.1 million, New England has had an increase of 150%. We did a record year last year with 2.7 million hungry New Englanders fed. This year we are going to hit 4 million, which is 150%. So thanks to your generosity and all the hundreds of families on the South Shore that have come doing this. Okay, so an individual, if you look, there's a Sign Up Genius link. I'm not smart enough to do the chat here, but I'll make sure that Jeff has the link and he'll share it so you guys will all know it. But there's, if you look now, we have like maxed out for volunteers. We just need a little bit more funding and we can hit this 4 million. I know we can pack it. We just have to be able to pay for it. But there's a link to sign up, and on that is 3 ways to donate. So we always have a Facebook fundraiser. We have Venmo. People can mail checks to my home, written to the outreach program. But whatever comes in, we just had someone give $2,000. $65 packs 1 box, which feeds 216 people. So we pack a ton of boxes from that one donation. Some people give $30, so then we can pack half a box. But we literally have volunteers lining up to do this. So if I had a shift, it's going to be full tomorrow, no matter when it is. We have all day Martin Luther King packing, and all the shifts are almost full for that already, and that's over a month away. We have pantries lining up, so like 40, 50 pantries want these meals now. A lot of people are choosing between heating and eating right now, so we want to provide them with free, nutritious food. I actually have all the bags in front of me if you want to see what they look like, but the original 2 were this and this. This Easy Mac is still our most popular, but the beans and rice was a variation of the rice-based meal. We just added pinto beans to it. It became a domestic meal. Since we've expanded, we now have 10 different kinds. They're all about the same nutritionally. So the client who gets it, it's the most nutritious, least expensive meal they've ever eaten, and they have to boil water to make it. So in Plymouth County, there's a couple hundred people that are homeless. I just found out there's a bunch of homeless students, 65 homeless students in Marshfield. But they love our meals because they can cook them in one pot, and you basically are just boiling the water out, pouring the pack in, stirring it up. You can eat it out of the same pot. So as long as you can somehow get to boiling water on a campfire or a camp stove or any way, our meal is very, very nutritious, and you can just eat it up. It's non-perishable. They're good for a couple of years nutritionally, so they're like ideal. And there's just a ton of variety now. So whereas when we go out to mobile events, we pack 1 or 2 kinds, we've been able to pack all 10 kinds kind of in a continuous fashion. That's why I have all the bags in front of me, is because local pantries want variety because their clients have gotten used to this and are now requesting it. Like, we want that outreach meal because it's so nutritious and you boil water to make it. Like, my kids cook them for themselves. They're both in high school, and apparently 3 square meals a day is not enough for them. So they cook extra food after we go to bed, just so they have something to eat. And then they just refrigerate the rest if they don't eat it all, and they have it the next day. So they're really versatile. They're good for the community. They're good. The volunteers love it. Our motto is ending hunger, enriching lives. And we really, really enrich the lives of our volunteers in a big, big way. So when you give a ginormous grant and it allows a bunch of people that have maybe never, ever done something like this before to get off their couch and shut Netflix off and go as a family and volunteer and feed thousands of people, it really enriches them. It gives them hope that, like, hey, we can do this thing. 4 to 5% of Americans are New Englanders, but we have been doing 25% of the meals during the pandemic because of the huge local response to this and all that we're doing for the South Shore and right around here. Providence is getting crushed right now, so we're trying to help them as much as possible, but we try to honor the gifts as well that we're feeding hungry people on the South Shore. So my address is 93 Whiffletree Lane. It's like a wiffle ball bat, WHIFFLETREE Lane in Marshfield, and it's 02050. But the checks are always made to the outreach program, and then we just, whatever we get in for checks, we use to pack meals. So if somebody has a huge check like yours, we've gotten some individuals that are able to give that amount or connect us to another group that can get us money. We've got the volunteers, we've got the pantries lining up. We just need to keep the machine going, and that's the fuel for this, is cash. The reason for that is my boss and his wife now, every 3 weeks during the pandemic, have been sending us a semi full of raw product, bags and boxes, so that we can pack it. But if we don't have anything to put through the funnel, the volunteers simply can't do anything. So the outreach program is what it's called. And the repurposing, my boss and his wife have now fed 600 million people in their retirement. We've done 35 million, but just to give you a sense of the growth of this, the last 5 years in New England, 1.8 million, 2.3, 2.4, 2.7. We were thinking maybe 3 this year. We'll do 4 million hungry New Englanders fed, because we were able to raise $1.2 million. We've raised almost $1 million during the pandemic, so it's been huge. Yeah, so you've got outreachprogram.org is the national website. We have a Facebook page. It's called End Hunger NE. So anything you look at that's local to us, they've now expanded. They have like 5 different regions. We still outproduce, we almost outproduce the home office, quite frankly, but we outproduce all the other regions combined, just because New Englanders have to win everything. But yeah, big money given, big volunteers given, huge impact. We're actually keeping pace with the impact we made before. Yep. So Facebook.com and EndHungerNE, Instagram.com/EndHungerNE, Venmo.com/EndHungerNE. Any of those will get you there. But that's kind of what we've been up to. And we've really expanded. We're up to 3.33 million just during the pandemic. So our huge winter's low compared to spring and fall. We did about 600,000. So we just have a few hundred more boxes to pack to hit 4 million, but they're not all totally funded yet. Jeff's are, so we'll pack all those 4,600 boxes, but with a little more funding to end the year in giving or whatever, we'll be able to plow through. But yeah, we're just doing it way faster than we've ever done, but we can just use a lot less people. So the math says we can only produce so much, but if we have funding, I'll be there 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, packing them, because I know there's places that want them desperately, and they'll get them and they'll hand them out and they'll be gone. So we could do this 2, 3, 10 times as much, and still there'd be places to give them to. And they're good nutritionally for 2 years. So if we packed 1 billion, we could just stock every pantry forever, and there'd always be food for people to eat.
And Matthew, you're a year-round operation, not just around the holidays.
Every day, 7 days a week. I'm like a firefighter fighting a fire that never goes out. So yeah, I do have a day off occasionally, but if there's money, we're packing meals. I used to have to wait to go to an event. So last year, basically my life was load for an event, do the event, unload from the event. Now it's just go 5 miles from my house, pack with a bunch of people that are awesome, give the meals out. One day we had 7 different pantries pick up meals. So there's kind of this continual thing happening. And if you're looking for Hanukkah or Christmas gifts and you come by the warehouse, if you can get that Sign Up Genius link, you can show up, and 5 local artists, all Marshfield, well, they're all South Shore, one's from Plymouth, I think, are giving things there that people can buy that the proceeds feed more people. So we're getting creative. Stellwagen in Marshfield, the brewery, is giving 10% of its online sales through the 14th to us. The Pembroke thrift shop did a fundraiser and fed like 35,000 people with the money they raised. So everybody's kind of just doing everything. Lowe's gave us brooms. Wilkins Signs from town lettered the building so people would know that was even a thing. My brakes went out in the spring, and Luchetti's fixed them for a discount just so I could get to the warehouse every day, because I was sleeping and packing for 51 days. So yeah, everybody's just been doing everything they can do to help out. There's a coffee place in Marshfield, a vineyard or winery type deal in Pembroke. Everybody's been giving whatever they can do to generate money, to generate volunteers. Scouts are coming out of high school students, are just flooding in to do it. And then the pantries, everybody gets them for free. So they're just happy to be able to pick up meals to hand out to their folks, because everybody's serving at least 150% as many people as they did last year.
You know, Matthew, you had me at Stellwagen Brewery. You know,
Yeah.
that
They've been one of our all year partners. They did a huge fundraiser in the spring. They're doing one through the 14th. So yeah, if you want to stock up on your holiday beers and sours and seltzers, have at it.
So yeah, Jeff, or if you do have that Sign Up Genius, I know Kim put the website and the Facebook page in the chat, and I put the
and if you go to the Facebook page,
chat,
you just have to look at a few posts, and it's on every post. So you should be able. It's a really long Sign Up Genius link, but it's I could type it in, but I'd have to copy it from somewhere.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the warehouse address is 203 Oak Street in Pembroke. The address, the Wiffle Tree address I gave you before, is where you send donations, but the 203 Oak Street in Pembroke is where you actually volunteer. So Jeff's been there with the folks that normally would have done it last year, but 90% of our volunteers have never done this before. They haven't even heard of it, and now they're just falling over each other trying to get in to do it, but in a safe way, and just cranking out a ton of meals. And it's a lot of fun.
But you definitely want people. You definitely want people to sign up before they just show up at the facility.
Yeah, and we've had to do that since almost out of the gate, because we can only have 4 people in there.
Right. Awesome. Any questions for Jeff or Matthew?
I have one, if it's okay. I'll raise my hand.
There's the Sign Up Genius link there.
So this is Masha Richards. It's been a long time since I've been to CHNA. I'm going to segue. I'm also funded through a mini grant to develop a healthy, affordable cookbook. This cookbook will be distributed throughout the communities in food pantries. And I'm very familiar with the outreach products. And I've even created a few recipes using them. So I would love your permission to include an outreach product recipe in this cookbook.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Anything that helps out people, especially folks that are having to eat this every day, it's nice to be able to dress it up. And the Greater Plymouth Area Food Bank has been doing that too. Their nutritionists are making recipes, and other people have creatively made up different ways to dress it up.
Exactly. So, and I'll send it to you. I'll let you look at it before it goes in the book. So I am in the process of, I've completed the nutrient analysis on the book, getting ready to type it up, and I'm hoping that I will be back in a month or 2 to share with you the results of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if you have any link to it online, I always include that in the frequently asked questions. So if people are looking for different ways to dress up, anybody in New England could use your recipes, because there'll be the little link there for them to tap into it.
Great. Okay. Thanks,
Martha. Thanks for that progress report. We're excited about that. Any other questions for Jeff or Matthew? I don't see any. Kim has put the Sign Up Genius in the chat. Thank you, Kim. We'll make sure we send that around as emails as well. It's a great project. We're so excited to be able to support it, and obviously the need is growing every day, as you mentioned, Matthew. So Jeff, thank you so much for bringing Matthew to talk about this, and thank you for all the work you do in making this program possible. So
Yeah, thank
thank
you.
you both very much.
And we
Yeah,
really-
thank you for the gift and the support both years. It's been huge. I'm grateful for Jeff and for you guys, but just for all these volunteers that are coming out of the woodwork to help their neighbors that they don't even know who they are that's hungry, but they're there making it happen.
Yeah. And thank you for being able to do it with the precautions necessary to keep people safe and fight the spread, because that's also important as well.
Yep.
So I think thank you so much. That's a good segue to Sue Giovanetti, Sue is the director of the Plymouth Area Coalition for the Homeless. I think a group that folks are aware of, but we thought it would be great to have Sue come and tell us a little bit about what she's doing, the group's mission, and especially any holiday giving programs that are underway now. So Sue, I'll turn it over to you. And I think you are on mute, Sue.
Okay.
There you go.
You hear me now? Okay. Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me to have a chance to share what the coalition is really all about. We first and foremost are a shelter, family shelter, providing emergency assistance shelter to families throughout the region. Our catchment area is really 22 South Shore communities. So we cover a vast area that we all live in and certainly service through our different organizations. So first and foremost, we're a shelter. And as such, we're from the minute families come to us, we're providing them with the counseling and case management and rehousing support to eventually become a strengthened family unit and to move on to permanent housing and self-sustainability. So, the backbone of that, of the shelter program, is really our education program. And that's where we have different classes that are offered to the adults, as well as different support services educationally and mentors that are there to provide that facet of support for our younger residents, which we have, in the area generally of 30 or more children. So Sue West has certainly been a long time instructor in our education program. Nancy DeLuca comes in and does a lot of health imperatives work through the pantry program. Who else? Oh, Masha. Masha works with us at both the pantry and the shelter education program, all of which has been impacted by COVID. So we're looking to create more of a virtual programming in January as a result of COVID. We had to really adapt our facilities in a way that we knew we could bring all of our residents into a situation where they would be in a class together for it to be effective. Individual Zooming doesn't quite work in the setting that we're in. So that said, we have many programs at the coalition. When we started, it was housing, but we also were sheltering, but we also recognized that basic needs support is part and parcel of that conversation. So we do have, we've started in 1985. Along with the shelter, we have a food pantry that's been servicing the community since then. While Greater Plymouth is really the area that seeks out our pantry for support, we do have people from as far up as Hull that come down to our pantry. So we take a great deal of pride in the pantry program. Like every other pantry in the area, we've shifted to a drive-through situation. We did that, I believe, the second week of March. That, sadly for us, it impacted a lot of the effectiveness of the program, because in addition to providing food and nutritional advice to the clients, what we were missing is the actual one-on-one experience that food insecure families were having when they came into the food pantry. We worked very hard at having various agencies being in the lobby of the food pantry to be available for whether it be nutritional advice, health advice, children's services with Boys and Girls Club, Children's Melanoma Foundation, all these different types of organizations that are out in the community and can be supportive to all families, not just the food insecure. We had those available to our clients. Enter COVID, that had to stop. So we're working very hard at placing printed materials into food boxes so that we're still messaging out to our clients. But it's taking some shifting, but we're working on it, and we're grateful that we're able to do that. What we have experienced is 4 times the client base at the food pantry. It will dip down every now and then to about 3 times the normal load. So, that's, we lost, normally we have 75 core volunteers that support us throughout the year in our programs. We're down to less than 10 right now. That's been, we're all tired. Our day never changed. While we couldn't stay at home and work. We have to come in. It has, for us, our day-to-day just means longer days. But we're grateful to be able to do it. And the food pantry, the need is overwhelming. Much like Matthew shared, the community response is nothing short of exemplary. I wish there was time in the day that I could thank every group, organization, individual that drops things off. Prior to Thanksgiving, as much as we would just have phenomenal amounts of food coming in, and we're partnering with farms to be able to have fresh produce, at the end of the week, on Friday afternoon, the shelves were empty. We had a couple of massive food drives during the holiday time, which isn't unusual, except the size of them has been just wonderful. But it's, nothing short of overwhelming is all I can say. The need is there. The response from the community has been there. We have had to go out and buy food, though. I will say that it's, it's a reality, and we are very committed. We are considered a healthy market by Healthy Plymouth, and we take a great deal of pride in that. Nutrition and good health, it means a great deal to us, and we recognize that as a way of certainly just having a good, strong life. But, for those families that are experiencing homelessness or on the verge of it, my mother always said, better to pay the grocer than the doctor. And I never forgot it. And if you don't have the money, we've got to make sure that nutritional value is always there. And we want people to be excited about being able to put out a meal and know how to put a meal on the table for their families. So, to Matthew's point of, it could be that they're in the state forest, or they're couch surfing, or there's a lot of undetected homeless that are out there that we know. So that's, if I were going to add one more thing as far as the food pantry, it would be one of our greatest concerns, and this goes into our other programs as well, is that given the COVID crisis currently, we know that there's a tremendous number of people who have never been familiar with the services that are out there. Not only don't they know or understand how to enter or how to look for support, but they've been middle-class people. They've driven nice cars, they've had nice homes, or still do, and they're holding on to them. But with that also comes an amount of pride, and it makes it very, very difficult to even say, I need help. You know, as we're creeping closer to the holidays, we're seeing that. And the number of people that we have come to our door or call in tears, it just increases every day. So we're trying to identify those individuals and let them know that it's, you know, we're there to support them, and we have been for over 35 years. And we have every intention to continue to do that. That's a big thing. You know, we put out at Thanksgiving over 300 turkey dinners. We had great support from the community. And I would say that those turkey dinners added up to close to 1,500 individuals. The numbers are staggering when you start to think about it. So we do have Mike referred to the holiday, and certainly we've been, I'm trying to think how many years it's been, but when the Old Colony Memorial passed on the Children's Holiday Fund to us, it's not 15 years, it's over 10 that we've been managing the Children's Holiday Fund. That program, we're still accepting applications to that. What we're concerned about right now is readership of the local papers is down, the circulation is down. So we're trying to be sure that people understand that this is a long-standing program. I know it was into its fourth decade of taking care of the South Shore area. We provide toys, clothing, winter wear, as well as a holiday dinner. So it'll be just like a Thanksgiving meal basket, they get a holiday basket. So we're doing this fast and furious. It's been the sponsors over the last 2 weeks has been crazy, and but we are still accepting, even though our paperwork said, you know, you had to have it in by November 1st. We're still accepting applications, and we'll continue to do that as best we can. We have a fair program that provides clothing, household, and furniture to families in need. We had a family yesterday that had a fire in their home, lost everything. So we're going to support them as best we can, you know, with everything and all that they need. Pretty much, and the other thing that I would say is we also have a Voice in the Night, which is a 24/7 hotline where there'll always be a person on the phone. We know, especially during the current situation, there's a lot of depression. We're all socially, people are really feeling the impact of COVID. But if you're in a vulnerable population, you sometimes just need to talk to that other person and get that little bit of support. So our staff is trained to provide that. They have all the resource information available to pass on to callers. And it's a 24/7 manned hotline. So that's a big piece. I don't know, you know, I could talk forever about our programs, but to turn it back to the gratitude piece, thank you for the opportunity to share what we do, because everything we do, we're grateful for. We wouldn't be we wouldn't, yeah, something happened. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without the community. We're limping along with so few volunteers because we house 12 families here and up to 63 individuals. We've really pretty much March 6th or 7th, we pretty much created a bubble around our building. We started taking temperatures and really just have really been trying to take care of everyone. We're certainly grateful to this point. We've had a few little scares, but we've been able to keep everyone healthy. And that's caused us to shut down the thrift shop and having outside educators come into the building. Counselors are not allowed in the building unless it's on an emergency basis. So it's been hard, but it's working. And so we're grateful for all of that, and grateful for the staff that's been incredibly resilient. Hoping to get our volunteer base back, because to have 75 core people and hundreds upon hundreds of one-off volunteer groups, we lost all of those. That's a big thing. And my third grateful comment, Mike, is really, and I think probably everybody on the call would agree, how fortunate we all are to have an incredible legislative team that works so well together to share our stories at the state level, and then to bring back those benefits to the community. And that, I know all of us have been touched by that, and it means a great deal. And sometimes we don't think about it, but we're very fortunate in that regard. So that said, if anybody has any clients or any referrals, especially families that have been impacted by COVID, or just the way the economy and downturns, we're here. We'll do whatever we can, or we'll put people together with the right resources.
Awesome. So thank you so much. And I know Kim put the direct link to the Children's Holiday Fund on the website. I got the website from my ad in the local Old Colony Memorial, which I was just happened to have on my on hand. So I'm still getting the paper and reading it every couple times a week. And I think you make an excellent point about people who normally do not seek those type of resources like the coalition, like Outreach New England, are definitely finding the need that they need it. And there is an issue of pride and stigma that people have to overcome. And I think it's really something to acknowledge as we're dealing with this. And that's why it's so important, again, to get back to the theme of gratitude, to express gratitude that organizations like the coalition and Outreach New England and so many other groups that are doing work of the folks on this call and who come to our meetings every month, the gratitude for the work that you're doing. I think we had a few questions in the chat. If families wanted to apply, they should go to that website as well. So the Children's Holiday Fund link under the coalition. Okay.
Yep. Under Children's Holiday, there's a drop down. The only thing is ignore the dates. And also, if there's a counselor who wants to vouch for the need, at this point, the documentation isn't as important. If we can get a counselor to vouch for it, because a lot of times, out of necessity, we ask for different documents to support the need.
Yeah.
But at this point, if there's a counselor that's willing to vouch for it, we're, rather than have that deter someone. Yeah.
Awesome. And just one other question: if people did want to volunteer, is there a place to sign up for that? Are you actively recruiting, or are your limitations such that you can't recruit? What's going on with that?
Who's that addressed to?
That's for you. If people do want to volunteer.
Yeah. We're accepting applications. However, we're really not having anyone onto the property that we're sticking with what we have. I wish, I so wish, especially with Children's Holiday, we're used to having teams of people in every day to help arrange the gifts. What happens with the Children's Holiday? We have drives, toy drives, clothing drives, whatever that come in. We have sponsors that have adopted families or children. When those gifts all come in, which is this week, we then go through what the gifts that come in to ensure that they're appropriate, that they match what the requests were, and when possible, if they need to be augmented in any way. So if there wasn't a winter jacket, we throw a winter jacket in. Pajamas, we'll throw it in. Anything like that. So, but it's really all about making sure that the gift package that's coming in is appropriate and fair and meets the need. And so that all takes time. And then we have to contact the family and get them in here. So it's unfortunately, we don't want to take a chance at bringing anything onto the property. So that's
yeah, I think we all appreciate that. And some places, Matthew has a huge warehouse. He can be a little more expansive with the number of people he's able to bring in so they can be distant. But I know the facility on Bishop's Highway is not too big and you're very limited. Yeah.
Right. We're looking to double our capacity though. So we are looking for an expansion site at this time. So we're hopeful that will happen soon.
Awesome. Well, definitely keep us posted on that. Thank you so much to Sue for all the work that you've done over the years and for keeping this program going despite the pandemic. And as we've said many times, the need is definitely still there. And we're very happy that you're still out there doing it. Thank you also to Matthew and to Jeff for coming and talking with us today about that program. We're happy to share the links with folks on how we can support that and how we can connect people we're working with who might need some of these programs as well. Does anyone have any announcements or anyone who wants to share something that they're grateful about with us? No holiday parties, no big bashes between now and the 25th. I guess all of our holiday gatherings will have to be over Zoom. So I just want to thank everyone for being here this morning. And Heather Cashman from Pembroke Hospital she had to leave, but she did write that she's thankful for the technology that brings us all together. And I'm thankful for that too. And as you said, Matthew, sometimes it's people are finding that it's more, you said at the very beginning, people want to continue with the Zoom and the virtual meetings because my commute's a lot shorter from my bedroom to my kitchen table than when I have to drive to Plymouth. So like Jen said earlier, there are definitely silver linings. So we're happy about that. So thank you all for being here today. I just want to mention the health literacy. We had the health fair back in October, and a lot of the videos that groups produced are on our website, and Kim has been posting them I think on a pretty much like a monthly or bi-weekly basis. So keep an eye on the Facebook page to see new videos. If folks have videos they want to add to that, I guess like 2 or 3 minute videos talking about your program, we'd be happy to share those as well. Let Kim know, and we can share that from your page directly, YouTube page, whatever it is. So thank you all, and we'll see you all in the new year. We're looking forward to turning the page, so to speak, on 2020 to 2021. And thankful that we're all here together and able to keep the work going. So happy holidays to all, and see you in January. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.